So the 2024 NBA offseason is pretty much come to a close, and with that we have some pretty high expectations for certain teams, but more specifically some certain players. Whether that be signing a max extension in the offseason, overcoming some playoff failures in recent history, or just beating the wash title that some of these guys have received, the 5 players I'm talking about in today's video need to prove something in 2025, or they may never be looked at the same for the rest of their NBA careers. With that being said, these are all just my opinion, and if you have a problem or think someone else needs to be on this list, feel free to comment whatever you like in the comments down below. Drop a like while you're down there too, it really supports the channel, and without further ado, let's get right into number 5. Coming in at number 5 is the man who just got loaded with a max extension, and that is Detroit point guard Cade Cunningham. As a prospect, Cade was viewed as a premier perimeter scorer with a crafty ability to playmake, and at 6'6", he was regarded as an extremely talented jumbo guard who would come into the NBA pretty seamlessly and just dominate. And whether it be questionable draft selections,
Hayes with the dribble on the wing, screen from Bagley.
Poor roster management, or flat out just terrible injury luck, the former number 1 overall selection has had a rocky start to his NBA career, to say the least. Saying that Detroit has gotten Cade sufficient help around him would be just flat out lying, with Detroit ranking in the lower end of just about every stat offensively and virtually no spacing to go with that. For this reason, I don't believe Cade's averages actually indicate him playing at this level. However, it is completely reasonable to expect much more from a highly touted prospect like Cade. I mean, I understand having a high turnover rate and not shooting extremely efficiently inside the arc with how little Detroit has around him, but there is no reason for Cade to be struggling this bad from the perimeter, as it was viewed as one of his bigger positives to his offensive game coming into the league. A lot of his shots have come off self-created looks, which can definitely alter a player's percentages, but even on open or wide open looks from 3, Cade has been mediocre shooting the ball. His slashing has been a plus, with questionable burst, though an assortment of counters it makes sense why he gets to the rim effectively, yet the inability to finish when he gets there is another big area of concern. Cade averages roughly 17 drives per game, which ranks him in top 5 in the entire league. However, when you compare his actual production at the rim, when he bottoms out in pretty much every category in comparison. A lot of Cade's impact numbers are definitely skewed by his situation, but being a net negative as someone who is looked at as the offensive engine for the team is at least a little bit puzzling. Cade has struggled to stay on the court in the NBA through his first 3 seasons, and there has been linear statistical improvement. With Detroit adding some spacing and shooters in the offseason, all eyes need to be on Cade Cunningham for at least a minor breakout season. Heading into the 2023-2024 NBA season, the Milwaukee Bucks look to assert themselves as one of the league's biggest powerhouse duos in recent history. The pair of Dame and Giannis on paper looked video game-esque, but expectations dwindled as a lack of chemistry or synergy was seen throughout most of the year. The loss of Jrue Holiday not only impacted Milwaukee's perimeter defense severely, but without a secondary passer/playmaker on the court, it seemed like Dame took a hit due to this as well. Lillard looked good in his first year with the Bucks, but it was nothing in comparison to his last few seasons playing as the number 1 option in Portland, even from an efficiency standpoint. Now, a lot of this can be pointed towards finding his groove, as he'd never really been a secondary option aside his younger days along LaMarcus Aldridge, but Dame has now had a full offseason and regular season playing for the team, playing under the new coach. It is time to be the powerhouse duo you and Giannis are meant to be. And there was definitely flashes last year of the two dominating, however this needs to be a game in and game out thing, and it can't just be here and there. The pick and roll between Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo needs to be the most efficient and effective play in all of the NBA, because not only will this affect the two stats individually, the entire team will feast off of opportunities with players playing drop coverage, help coverage. All of these things will open up lanes and opportunities for other players to feast off the two dominating. Dame's been yearning for some help in Portland for years, and he's finally received that. It's now time to put up or shut up, and I don't think this is only a make or break season for Damian Lillard. I think it's a make or break season for the Milwaukee Bucks in general. This is the oldest team in the NBA, and they're not getting any younger anytime soon, and without major playoff success in the last few years, if this continues, you could see Giannis Antetokounmpo in a different jersey in the near future. The former Rookie of the Year runner-up Evan Mobley has continued to be a dominant mobile defender in the NBA, but his inabilities from his debut season remain the same in year 3. Mobley has yet to find his groove offensively in the league, and his jump shot has continued to be inconsistent, to put it nicely. With little to no post-up game and a very weak physical frame, Mobley struggles severely to impact the offensive game whatsoever, and this has costed the Cavaliers heavily when playing in very physical matchups. At 7 foot with a 7'4" wingspan, his rebounding numbers are kinda disappointing, and when matched up against players around his height, he simply can't find a route to the rim at any consistent rate. Versus the Knicks just a year ago, Mobley struggled to average over 9 points a game, and he did this on just 45% from the field as a big man. He definitely stepped it up more in his more recent playoff run, though this should be heavily asterisked due to Boston's starting center Kristaps being out with injury. Mobley had a much more comfortable matchup in the oldest big in the playoffs, Al Horford, who Evan also had a physical and athletic advantage in pretty much every area he could. Mobley's defense will never really be a concern, but with the potential of Jarrett Allen leaving in a trade soon, he's going to need to find a way to be more assertive in the paint and under the rim as a main rim protector and roll man. At very least, the mid-range or 3-point shot are an absolute necessity if Evan Mobley ever wants to break out as a star big man in the league for the foreseeable future. You all saw this coming from a mile away. Recently acquired by the Dallas Mavericks, Klay Thompson arguably has the most to prove out of anyone on this entire list. Coming back from 2 major injuries was impressive, but the added baggage Klay brought to Golden State with his horrible shot diet and reluctance to even pass the ball was a major red flag in the last 2 seasons. Now in Dallas, alongside who many view as the best playmaker in the entire league and one of the best shot creators ever, Klay has found himself in the perfect position to move the Wash title from his name. He remains as one of the league's best 3-point shot makers, but his shot selection has affected his efficiency over the last few seasons severely. The knee injuries have pretty much shot any lateral movement from Klay's defensive game, though he still does have great IQ and solid screen navigation, leaving him as more of a neutral defender than a negative in my opinion. If Klay really wants to have a prove-it year, he's gonna need to drop the ego and go back to his roots, coming off the ball with great personnel to do so around him in Dallas. I expect a progression in 2025 from Klay, but never forget who shot 0 for 10 in an elimination game versus the Kings. Also, this just looks wrong. This might be on the same level of Celtics Shaq if Klay doesn't perform this upcoming season, I'm not gonna lie. And finally, number 1 is arguably the most hated player in the entire world right now. Joel Embiid is, in my opinion, the biggest prove-it season for his entire career. Embiid's game has always been a cause of criticism due to his reliance on getting to the free throw line so heavily. This doesn't concern me as much as others, with just how versatile of a scorer Embiid has become in his career. At his frame and size, his footwork and shot making ability are one of one, while also topping the league as one of the most underrated defenders in the entire association. The biggest excuse for Embiid's lack of playoff success so far has been a mix of 2 things from fans: injuries and lack of roster talent. Well, the Sixers got to work in the offseason adding great depth at wing, a co-star in Paul George, and the continued star development of Tyrese Maxey to go along with it. The Sixers top to bottom have the only roster I truly believe that can hang with Boston in the East, but it's come to a point where it relies solely on Joel Embiid and his ability to stay healthy and finish a playoff series. Whether it be his fault or not having a single playoff trip make it past the first 2 rounds in a weaker division is a huge red flag, especially going into his 8th season. Embiid has a chance to silence all critics and haters going into 2025, and the Sixers certainly have what it takes to make a run for the title. If a deep playoff run isn't the minimum expectation next season, the hate Embiid is receiving may steadily start to gain some credibility to it. And that is my list for the players with the most to prove heading into the 2025 NBA season. There's a lot of names I could have mentioned that didn't quite make the cut, so again, feel free to remind me in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and drop a like to support, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.